Welcome to Inside Evo. Now, we haven't done one of these for a while, but it's generally when we've got some footage which we think you'd like to enjoy. We want to share it with you, but equally we know it's not exactly the best footage usually because somebody like me's shot it. Anyway, we got a call the other day saying could we get across to Silverstone because there was a McLaren that we could have a ride in. And so I grabbed a couple of GoPros and ran out of the office, and people didn't miss me. And when I got there, it was pretty extraordinary. It was clear it wasn't a normal press day. We were with owners who were waiting for their first goes in the P1 GTRs that they'd bought, or gearing up for that on the next couple of days. And there were a couple of, well, there were 4 F1 GTRs there. And there was an ex-Senna F1 car which was just, well, it was extraordinary. It had its bodywork off, and apart from the engine, just the sight of the front of the car and how much you were sort of sitting at the front of a rocket, it looked like, with your feet in between the front wheels. It looked yeah, even more scary than with bodywork on, I think. There was also a P1 there, obviously P1 GTR running around, but what we'd been invited to go and have a ride in was the 675 Longtail. Now, we're hoping to drive this later this year, so this was just a first experience, and I was mostly taken out by Chris Goodwin, who is McLaren's test driver, who we've seen plenty of times before. But it came towards the end of the day and it was getting a bit late and the car disappeared to go and be refueled, and we were all sort of looking at our watches thinking 5 o'clock was coming around all too quickly. Car reappeared, brilliant, and then there was no Chris Goodwin to be found. So they found me another driver who just happened to have a fairly iconic yellow, green and blue helmet. And I bunged the GoPros in, and apologies for the fact that they've obviously blown out on the windscreen in terms of the exposure, but we thought you'd like to see it nonetheless. So what is the 675 LT? Well, it's arguably the ultimate expression of the original MP4 12C. If you're being uncharitable, then you might say that the P1 is actually the expression of that, but we'll ignore that for the moment. The 12C became the 650S, which has now spawned this, the 675 LT. LT standing for Longtail, which was something used on the McLaren F1 Longtail when they sort of extended it to make it more competitive at Le Mans. In fact, this is only 34mm longer, but the changes are fairly significant. It's now up to 666 brake horsepower, a devilish number, if ever there was one. And although the 0 to 60 time is still about 2.9 seconds, so it's about the same, but 0 to 124 miles an hour is now 7.9 seconds, which is faintly ridiculous, and crucially 0.4 seconds quicker than the new 488 GTB. They've also done chassis changes, so you've got 27% stiffer springs at the front, 63% stiffer springs at the rear, more aero, so you've got an 80% bigger front splitter and that wider rear wing. You've also got titanium exhaust, new titanium exhaust with sort of cross flow, so it's actually slightly longer before it reaches the rear. And as you can hear, that certainly makes a difference. It's much louder, so slightly more sort of slightly rawer edge to it. I can't really tell you much more than that, to be honest. I absolutely love my ride around the passenger seat with Bruno Senna. He's a very cool guy, really smiley, really just sort of almost carefree. He's like a puppy, really. And it's almost as though the weight of F1 has been lifted from his shoulders and he can now just enjoy his driving. He's certainly extremely talented behind the wheel. And he loved the car, as I say. He said it was his favourite car he'd driven all day, and these were his thoughts. So what did you think of the 675 LT that we've just been out in?
Well, it's certainly my favourite car out of all the ones I've drove so far. It's so easy to be on the ballpark, so easy to control it on the neutral side of things. You can play with some traction, you can play with the front end, and it just responds to everything in the steering. And the upshifts are really sharp, the downshifts are sharp. It's really nice. I want to drive it again.
So that's just a small bit of footage of the 675 LT. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you'll get to drive the car very soon. There's also an interview with Bruno Senna in issue 211 of the magazine, which is on sale at the moment. So go out and buy that as well. If you would like to see some more McLaren videos, then why not have a look at our original 12C road trip video. Or if you like your McLaren slightly more racy, have a look at the 650S Sprint and GT3 car that are in our Track Car of the Year video.